let's now bring in our international editor, Sophie Mokoena, for more on this issue. And we'll try and take you back to Washington, D.C., when it comes to the signing of that peace agreement. And Sophie, thank you so much for your time. I mean, we are seeing this deal being brokered within Washington, D.C., and seeing that official announcement, particularly with the role that America has also played. And maybe then, Sophie, if you can just give us a bit of insight when it comes to this deal and what it took for it to be brokered, Sophie. One would say that it is quite interesting, particularly at a time where even Marco Rubio also mentions there that the role Qatar has had to play in this regard, Sophie.
Well, you are correct, Mbali. This deal, it is between Rwanda and also the DRC. But the problem here is that much as I had Marco Rubio greeting the M23, they didn't sign. Two, you have many armed groups in the DRC that are operating in the DRC. Now, when you say this agreement is aimed at ending the conflict in the DRC, when the role players in the DRC are not part of this agreement, it's not binding to them. Yes, they may have relationships. For example, Rwanda with M23. But the problem is M23 didn't sign.
Yeah.
And therefore, it becomes problematic. However, in terms of the relationship between Rwanda and the DRC, it is a good thing, but this is not new.
All right, Sophie, of course, as you make the point of the M23 rebels, let's quickly take our viewers back to Washington, D.C., and we'll continue with our discussion after this.
Dr. Marco Rubio, Dr. Massad Boulos, Senior Advisor for African Affairs, His Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mr. Olivier Nduhungirehe, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Dr. Mohammed bin Abdulaziz Khulaifi, Minister of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the State of Qatar, His Excellency Mr. Robert Dussé, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Togo, Senators, Excellencies, distinguished guests, and to all Congolese citizens following this movement, wherever you may be. 2 months ago in this very room, we signed a declaration of principles, a first tangible step to break with deadlock and chart a path towards peace. Today, that choice takes shape and sustained efforts have come to fruition. With this peace agreement, we open a new chapter, one that calls not only for commitment, but for the courage to see it through. By signing this agreement, we reaffirm a simple truth. Peace is a choice, but also responsibility, to respect international law, to uphold human rights, and to protect the sovereignty of states. Those who have suffered the most are watching. They are expecting this agreement to be respected, and we cannot fail them. This agreement builds on the efforts of many. First and foremost, we want to express our sincere gratitude to His Excellency President Donald J. Trump for his commitment to this peace process. His leadership kept this process focused and goal-oriented, and that from day one. This was further characterized by the quality and resolve of the entire U.S. team, illustrated by the critical support of Senator Rubio and Dr. Boulos. We salute His Excellency President Félix-Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo for choosing the harder path, a peace rooted in principle and in the dignity of our people. We thank President João Lourenço of Angola, facilitator of the Luanda process, for laying critical foundations. We are also grateful to the State of Qatar and to His Highness the Emir, whose leadership was instrumental in convening the first direct meeting between our two heads of states in March, a courageous step that laid the groundwork for dialogue. Qatar has since facilitated further talks in Doha and remained a principled and steady partner throughout this peace effort. The African Union, through its chairperson and the appointed facilitator, His Excellency Faure Gnassingbé of Togo, have anchored this process in African ownership. Finally, we thank the negotiating team of both the DRC and Rwanda for their perseverance and devotion. This moment has been long in coming. It will not erase the pain, but it can begin to restore what conflict has robbed many women, men, and children of: safety, dignity, and a sense of future. For the Great Lakes region, it offers a rare chance to turn the page, not just with words, but with real change on the ground. Some wounds will heal, but they will never fully disappear. They may grow over, but the skin will forever remain thin and frail, and deep down, the flesh will still remember. At times we will feel numb, and at others we will feel a sudden pang that will remind us of what was lost forever. The scars we carry on our bodies and in our souls will remind us of what must never be forgotten, repeated, or accepted. A few days ago in Kinshasa, a coalition of women's organizations shared a clear message with me. Nous ne voulons pas d'une paix d'élite. Nous voulons une paix réelle, vécue, partagée et construite avec nous. We do not want a peace shaped by elites. We want a peace that is real, lived, shared, and built with us. To our fellow citizens in the East, this agreement was signed with you in mind. It provides for the disengagement of armed forces, the protection of civilians, the return of displaced persons and of refugees under government authority, and establishes a follow-up mechanism to ensure compliance. These are not just words on paper. They must now be translated into action with justice, accountability, and political will. This peace agreement is the starting point, not the end goal. It must now be followed by disengagement, justice, and the return of displaced families, and the return of refugees, both to the DRC and Rwanda. However, no text, however carefully negotiated, can carry on its own the weight of peace. I still remember, on the day we signed the Declaration of Principles, a member of the US team said, "If it were easy, it would have been done a long time ago." That holds true now more than ever. What we have signed is only as strong as our will to implement it. We, the DRC, will certainly and resolutely fight for this agreement to be respected, not with our words, but with our deeds. Today, we have chosen peace. What matters now is that we protect it and prove to our people and to the world that even in a region marked by deep scars, dignity and cooperation can prevail. So now, our work truly begins. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister. It's now my honor to invite the parties to sign the peace agreement to be witnessed by Secretary Rubio. The agreement being signed includes provisions on the respect for territorial integrity and the prohibition of hostilities, the disengagement, disarmament, and conditional integration of non-state armed groups, the establishment of a joint security coordination mechanism, the facilitation of the return of refugees and internally displaced persons, as well as humanitarian access, the reaffirmation of MONUSCO's mandate, and the establishment of a regional economic integration framework. The agreement also includes an annex on the functioning of the Joint Security Coordination Mechanism and the full text of the concept of operations of the Harmonized Plan for the Neutralization of the FDLR and disengagement of forces / lifting of defensive measures by Rwanda, which was agreed to under the auspices of the Luanda process on October 31st, 2024, and adopted by the foreign ministers on November 25, 2024. With the parties' signatures today, the agreement immediately enters into force. Thank you very much. Congratulations. This concludes the proceedings.
And there you have it. We're officially seeing the signing there of that peace deal between Rwanda as well as the DRC. And of course, being signed by the foreign affairs ministers, both in those countries, also alongside the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio witnessing that deal. And as you heard there from the foreign affairs minister from the DRC saying that it took 2 months to reach this point, and following first discussions being held in Washington, D.C. before seeing this moment taking place. Now, let's bring in now our international editor, Sophie Mokoena, for more on this update. Sophie, once again, we finally seeing that agreement being signed there in the U.S. Earlier on, you alluding to what Marco Rubio was mentioning, saying that, you know, this deal comes 30 years after seeing so much hostility within that region. But you also saying that, well, there have been other peace agreements which have been signed.
In fact, a comprehensive peace agreement in Sun City where all stakeholders were involved. But here we are. And therefore, it's not about signing, it's about implementation and ensuring that you are able to give peace a chance. And there are guarantors in terms of security and the implementation of that peace agreement. We even saw the deployment of MONUSCO, that is the UN peacekeeping force, to enforce peace. And there was a time where it was even escalated to an intervention force, South Africa being part of that group from other countries as well, to intervene to ensure that peace does hold. But it didn't take long. Here we are. Now, the question we must ask ourselves, does Rwanda and DRC signing an agreement, this is Rwanda and DRC, guarantees Congolese in the DRC a peaceful moment and transition, with role players within the DRC, not all of them being there? That's the big question we must ask. They talk about respect for territorial integrity. Are we going to see Rwanda leaving the DRC? Because there are allegations that Rwanda is operating in the DRC, and that's not territorial integrity. We've heard, even though it's not being said here, that that was a sticky point. And therefore, you'll continue to have a situation where allegations later might come up that you still have Rwandese in the DRC who are operating in the DRC. On the other hand, they are talking about refugees returning to their respective countries. Are we going to see those who fled during the genocide to Congo or DRC going back to Rwanda? Because that's what must happen if you are honest. When you talk about others going back to their respective countries, even those who are from Rwanda, who are in the DRC, must go back. What are you going to do with FDLR? How are you going to disarm them? And then the other important issue is the security coordination. When you talk about security or coordination, are we going to see another force? Who is going to be the commander? Because you can't just sign an agreement without having security support around that peace agreement. And lastly, we know DRC took a decision that MONUSCO must leave the DRC. That was the DRC government. And most of members of MONUSCO have left the DRC. You have a small contingent. And with the summit DRC leaving the DRC, MONUSCO is very weak where it is now. And remember, South Africa came with the capability. And they are taking out all their capabilities. What are you going to do as MONUSCO when you lose some of your capabilities to enforce peace? And lastly, with the refugees and humanitarian assistance, who is going to ensure that the security for the delivery of that humanitarian assistance? Who is going to rehabilitate the Goma airport so that this humanitarian assistance can be delivered in Goma? And lastly, where is M23 in this? Have they given assurance that they will subscribe and support this peace process? Is there a commitment to the belligerent forces to support this peace process?
And Sophie, I mean, that is a very important question, and that's where I was coming next. You know, when it comes to whether this agreement will hold, this peace agreement we're now seeing in Washington, D.C., particularly at a time where we see that the M23 is not involved in this peace agreement.
Yes, and therefore now we will be monitoring to hear the reaction from the M23 and other forces. You know that even the former president of the DRC is back in the country, and there's a standoff between him and the current president. And he's got support also in the DRC. He's got a political party. The political party was even almost treated badly in parliament by the current administration in the DRC. This peace agreement, is it going to lead to a situation where all these stakeholders will reconcile?
All right, Sophie, thank you so much for your time. That's SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena just giving us her reaction in terms of what we've just experienced and witnessed taking place in Washington, D.C., and that is that peace deal being signed between Rwanda as well as the Democratic Republic of Congo.